There we are. Hello, I'm Thal Smith, and today I'm reviewing a Doctor Who review of the Demons of Punj, Punj, Punjab, what have you. Um, so this episode, eh, it's not bad. It's not really good. It's just sort of meh. It's very meh. But there are some major issues with it. First off, it's very clear from the beginning of the episode that the person the gal was going to marry was going to die. Like, it was blatantly obvious in the first bloody scene where we see the watch and she doesn't want to talk about it, and then we meet the man that she isn't supposed to be the grandfather. Is like, he's going to die at the end of the episode, and of course he dies at the end of the episode. So his death has really none of the emotional impact, no matter how hard they try, because it's so blatantly obvious at the very beginning. Another thing that's really annoying about the whole episode is they go back to doing two things I very much loathe in New Who. The first is, of course, making the companion ask, "Oh, but I want to see something about my family, so and so." Okay, first off, that should never happen, and the doctor should give a firm no. You know why? Because you don't want to meddle with your own past, and you can alter things. And although they mention it, there's no real threat, and it's just really annoying, and it's annoying because there's so much focus on the companion more than the doctor doing adventures as the doctor. It's also annoying because Raz, whatever her name is, and the other companions' names, all I remember is the one guy's name Graham, and I barely remember that, and that's only because I think of graham crackers, because I get hungry. I haven't eaten graham crackers in a long time. Anyways, right, the episode. The episode. Getting back to what I was saying earlier, the thing that makes it so irritating as well is the fact that the companions managed to hop back to Earth at any time again, just like Clara, which was annoying. Can't we just have an adventure in space and time without having to have these interlude jab Earth drama thing? It's just. Plus, let's get to Alien Menace. Okay, the alien design was all right this episode. It wasn't awful like a lot of the other episodes have been, but it was very Power Rangers-ish than it was threatening. Though I will say the idea of the aliens being assassins was interesting until they completely dovetail that story to make a completely different story that had nothing to do with assassins, which made it really annoying. I know, they gave some excuse of, "Oh, but we used to be assassins, then we changed our ways." But seriously, if the writer was going to make them be what they were in the later half of the story, which we'll get into in a second, then why not just do the whole story on that instead of having the whole assassin subplot thing anyways? Especially considering the aliens serve really no purpose other than doing these awkward mind things with the doctor does weird walkings and like thing that just feels very awkward and messy in the scene that's being shot. Anyways, as for the later half, I do not at all mind the idea. I don't mind the idea of an alien being an assassin, or the idea of an alien being someone that is in remembrance to the forgotten dead. I think either of those ideas are great and all. It just would have been nice if they had the guts to go through with one of them instead of being half-assed with both of them. Because that's basically what happened. You have these two interesting ideas with aliens, and they don't really follow through enough on either of them to be really interesting, so they just half-ass these two ideas with them. And like I said, the two ideas are both interesting in their own right, but they never follow through on one or the other. Well, I mean, they sort of follow through on them doing that, but even then, they don't really add much, except we'll go watch him now, and that's it. Also, isn't it weird that their way of honoring/remembering the dead is to have these awkward projections of just their heads floating in the air? I don't know. That doesn't seem like a very good, way of honoring thing. Also, another big problem is that the episode does have is it's set in a very particular time frame in a very particular history that I don't know that many people know about unless you live in like India, Pakistan area. Like if you live around there, you probably know the history, but does that much of the rest of the world really know about it? Because I just don't think the episode does enough to explain or to not just explain, but to show the history that they're trying to express. And it doesn't help because we only get brief summarizations of it at best. So it's like, I don't know. I mean, All in all, though, despite the problems this episode has, this is actually the least problematic episode in the season so far. You know, it's not as propaganda heavy as the other episodes have been. It's not as lame with its monsters as the other episodes have been. So it's like it's all right. It's still nothing special, and it's very very forgettable. But yeah, and like I said, I don't think it's a bad idea, but I think the biggest problem with the episode, this is a huge problem with the episode, is there's no tension. There's supposed to be all this rioting and chaos and this building tension of these people going to come and take over them, and it's just not there. It's like a side note that's barely present. So the main issue with the whole rioting and stuff is so minor and only really comes at the end in the blatantly obvious he's obviously going to die, because you set that up in the very beginning of the episode in the most obvious manner that it has no emotional impact whatsoever, no matter how hard you try. Just, yeah, I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. It's just, this is a very irritating episode. It didn't really feel too much like a historical adventure, because the history, if it was there, was brief and overly summarized. Well, shortly summarized, I should say. It wasn't overly, it was underly. It was like very underly summarized and just barely addressed. And often just given these random speeches about, this isn't what India used to be. Well, I don't know what India used to be. Okay? Why don't you show us what changed India or something? I don't know. It's not bad. It's just not really good. It could have been better. Could have been worse. It's just, yeah, it's very meh. That's it. I'm done. That's all I need to say.